Hello, how's it going there? Right, so, hey, listen, I haven't been up on this trail in probably, geez, it might be 2 years since I've come up here, and I was just, the shot I was just showing was the trail, and it's so wide. I mean, this was a very dense trail, all the times I've been on it. Obviously used, but not massively used, right? So it'd be quite dense, but you could pick out the trail as you go, but you could if you looked at that first shot, you could see that it's just like wide open. Someone's been through here with a weed whacker for sure. You can see the cut-offs from all the brush and saplings and stuff. So someone's been through here to clear it out. So pretty easy going, although it's pretty steep here too. This is the trail, the ridge that runs kind of like to the northeast of where I live. Normally when I do videos hiking in the mountains, I go to the this is the northwest. You should go to the southeast ridge, and follow that. But I thought, oh, today I'll head up to the back, to the north side, and see if I can remember the trail. I mean, this is going to be a piece together thing, I think, but part of my goal is a friend asked me to talk about navigation and stuff, how I navigate and my perspectives, I guess. I mean, I at a really young age, when our school took a bunch of us up north of Toronto and to Halliburton area, beautiful area north of Toronto, quite a way. It's like 3 hours probably, but and we did orienteering and all kinds of bushcraft stuff. That's kind of where I started to really, I had been interested in learn stuff before that, but that's when I really started to get it, and we had like orientation races and things. It was super fun. So I learned how to use a map and compass and that, and but over the years, let me just see if I can adjust this. Over the years, I always carry a map and I always have a compass. Although right now I don't have a topo map for here. I just use maps on the phone, or I have my friend's old tablet that I use, although it's not working today, so I'm not using that. But I still go by the topo maps, and it's a Gaia GPS app, and I use that. And what I'll do is I'll mark waypoints when I'm sort of exploring trails, so I can reference them though. But I don't use them too much for navigation unless I feel a little in a jam. But today I've used it a lot just to see, because it looks so different today, yeah, just sort of, yeah. Well, anyway. So I probably used my compass 5 times, right? And I've been going off. I did my first solo trips when I was in like 16 or 17. It was not a crazy big trip, but it's sort of when I started doing that. And so that's a long time, right? Because I'm 62 now. So I very rarely use the compass, right? But I always have it. Always have it. I have like one on my phone, but I have a real one too. A sighting compass with mirror and everything. Because you just never know. But generally speaking, maybe what I'll do is I try to understand the lay of the land, right? And then I have a pretty good navigational sense anyway, right? For whatever reason. There's a few things. Most of my travels were in Canada, and most of that was in a part of northern Ontario called Killarney National Provincial Park, and the region, and a lot of that was canoeing, and a lot of that was hiking. And so it's like the roots of ancient mountains there, so it's quite hilly, quite rugged actually. It's not giant mountains, but it's extremely rugged quartzite mountains there. So now I'm in the north of Thailand, to the east of Chiang Mai, in the mountains there, right? And I just go exploring these hills a lot, and it's quite different. There's some similarities, right? One thing when you're traveling, say trails that you've walked along but don't go a lot, is that it changes with the seasons and all that, And here it's more so, I find, right? So here, like if I come up here in, let's say, 2 months and there's been a bunch of rains, it'll look really different. I mean, it's pretty lush now because we've had some rain, but so the the things here change very quickly, right? So I always pay attention, but I also don't panic when, oh, I don't know where I am. I don't recognize this. It's like you don't recognize. I don't recognize stuff all the time, right? It's like, geez, have I been here before? And then maybe I'll check on my phone map and I go, oh yeah, this is the trail. What happened? You know. So anyway, but one thing that I love, that I make a lot of use of is the lay of the land. And so if you're in a hilly area, especially a place like this, which has a lot of ridge lines to follow, and the ridge lines are great to follow, right? But you know, let's start walking. Hang on a sec. I've been having a lot of rest today. Everyone, I'm not in such great shape at the moment. Oosh. Anyway, yeah. So right now I'm kind of following a ridge line. It drops off here, and then it drops off here, right? So there's a lot of walking here that you can follow a ridge line. And if you understand, have a general sense of where the lines go here, that can really help you understand where you are, right? So that's what I do a lot. When I was in Killarney, it's not nearly as defined, right? Because it's glaciated hills, for one thing. One thing that really struck me here was there was maybe one, what is there, maybe 5 major glaciations, I think, 5 or 6. Anyway, oh, maybe I shouldn't walk. I'm going uphill, I'm tiring. So there was one possibly that this area might have been glaciated, but that was an awful long, I'm just going to kneel again. That was an awful long time ago. And also, Thailand really didn't exist then, right? Because all the continents had moved around since then. But in the last glaciation that really, defines Canadian geography, landscapes, so profound, utterly. Here, it's not at all. Right, so my first thought was like, wow, I'm walking in a land that's not seen glaciers run over it. It's really interesting. The other thing that's really different here is the sun, right? Even in the southern parts of Canada, it's still north enough that the sun is at a certain angle, right? Further north you go, the more it is, of course. And the further north you go, the longer the days are in the summer, right? But here, like right now, the sun is at its peak, it's almost right overhead, right? So things are really different. Like, the way the shadows lie and stuff are really different, I guess. I mean, I'm quite used to it now, of course. I've been living here for 5.5 years. And, but when I first got here, it was this subtle disconcertingness. What's the word? Yeah, really, it was like, wow, I feel a little bit off. I felt a little bit like, whoa, like a little bit off center. But part of it was that, I think, and also what really gets weird if you're from the north is that like by the June 21st, when the sun is at its furthest north, the sun's north of me, right? And in Canada you don't really experience that. I mean, you could argue in the Arctic because you can see the sun all day long at a certain time, so that's a different thing. But yeah, that was weird. I remember I was walking down the road and I was walking south and I could see my shadow. I'm going, holy Jesus, I can see my shadow and I'm going south. Anyway, yeah. So let's, hang on, let's continue. I'll see if I can do this and not huff and puff too much. Oosha! Okay, so now I'm coming up to a height here, right? Look, there's been a bit of a burn. Someone burnt some stuff out here. Very low level burning, eh? Like there's really no trees harmed or anything. Well, this is different. Oh yeah, so you can see here, see all this cut little twiggy things? That's a good old weed whacker coming through. The weed whackers for this still have metal blades on them. Wow. Interesting. Oh, look at this. Isn't that interesting? It's like a lichen or something, but it's interesting. Okay, I'm gonna stop because I'm stopping because I'm a little bit puffy. Okay, so here's a great instance of, I don't recognize this at all. It's like transformed. Wow, but it's a great, you can see the ridge, there's a ridge here, and there's a ridge here. The peak of this edge is narrow. It's like, geez, I don't know, 10 feet maybe before it starts dropping on each side. Amazing. Yeah, so this is a great, well, you can see the fires. What's sort of, not disconcerting, but there's a lot of trees here with brown leaves, right? So some of these little trees were affected by the fire, and so it's all brown leaves, which is, usually this would be all green, right? Even in the dry season. Yeah. So, here's a good time to talk about what to do when you don't know where you are. Because I sort of have, there's this feeling that can come in. And the feeling is, holy, I don't know where the hell I am. Like, not a clue. Wowee. Holy. Yeah, I don't, like, I feel like I want to look at the map. Maybe I'll do this quickly. Yeah, so another, I think there might be all kinds of outdoors people that are listening going, boy, how come she's not dead yet? Anyway, yeah, so this is really wild. But it's a good example of the real risk, not just when you're alone, but when you're with others. The real risk is when you don't know where you are and you panic because of it, right? I think that's maybe one of the most vital aspects about getting around, you know, in the woods and stuff. Of course, it's well known that the most dangerous thing is to panic, right? And it's really easy to, it's really easy when you suddenly you realize, I don't know where I am, just to do that, right? And that's when things get very, very potentially dangerous, so don't do that. Anyway, I'm gonna go check my map, see where the hell I am. I really don't recognize this. It's really wild. Anyway, back later. Hopefully I'll survive today and get home, okay? You know, I was gonna do like one video of, maybe I'll just do a series of videos of making my way kind of videos, because this is, like all of my videos are just gonna be really long. And anyway, I want to show you this. Tree that's come down. Came down quite a while. You can see, look at the roots, eh? I mean, this has been down for a while, so it's been weathered and eaten and stuff, but you can see it's not very deep, right? Yeah, the topsoil, if you can call it that, is shallow, right? Quite shallow, and these, even down where I live, there's rocks everywhere. Like, I just dig up so many rocks and I'm clearing some ground open. But anyway, so the trees really are shallow and the roots probably spread out far, right? But it doesn't take too much to bring a tree down here, and I often sort of say, kind of as a joke, but you know, it is sort of real. Oh, I'm on some flat now. Look at that, eh? It's like a freaking highway. Anyway, yeah, so like things falling are at least as risky as vipers and cobras and tigers and stuff, I would say. You better make sure there's no tiger coming. Anyway, yeah. So I still don't know where I am, but you know, I did check on my Gaia GPS application and map, and I'm right on the trail that I've been on, you know, 10 times, apparently. I really do not recognize it. Wild. Yeah. Now the trail's kind of, you can see they've been cutting it, but it's not quite as clear. But another great example of a narrow ridge. Like, look at that. it's like 3 steps and you're going down in either direction. But see, one thing that I am recognizing now is this part of the ridge. So suddenly, oh, now it's coming back to me. I think this is going to rise up a ways, and then the trail's going to maybe divide off down to Ban Me Lai to the left and down to Mekampong on the right. Yeah. Wow, this is so cool. Hey, look at this. What is this? Maybe there's someone watching. Some of the people living in Thailand might know this. It's bundled reeds tied on a branch. That's interesting. Oh no, it's a hook. Oh, look at it. Okay, here's my guess. See how it's burnt on the bottom? It's hooked onto the branch, so it's not on the branch itself. Probably used to start fires. That's my official declaration. Okay. So at the moment I'm in partial recognition, but not full recognition. But because we're getting into the area where it's not burnt out, so there's more greenery and stuff, the memories are starting to flood. Let's not say flood. The memories are starting to trickle back in. Yeah. Ooh, there's a big pile of wood. Trail went through there probably. Now we're scooting around it. Yeah, trail was there. Trees coming down. Oh yeah. I think soon I'll be... Oh yeah, I think that the trail down to Ban Me Lai is... There's 2 actually that go down. And I'm not sure if I've passed the first one or not. But there's 2, so the second one is... It kind of goes to the left and I'm going to go to the right. Yeah. Okay, here we are. Okay, trail Ban Me Lai. Can you see that? Goes right here, tucks down there. That's more or less how the trails usually look. And that's a bit wider. Oh yeah. Yes, how interesting. Oh look, they have an arrow. I've noticed on the trails on the southeast ridge some like markers as well, and I've noticed they've been widening the trail up there, and don't know what for. Yeah, I've often pondered the idea of setting up hiking trails, and maybe I could help with that, you know. But since I know them quite well, not all of them, but a lot of them. Anyway, I said it to some of the flight given people and others and whatever. But I'm not sure if that's a good idea or not, right? Because you start making trails, people start going up them, don't know what to do and get lost. Boom. Anyway, that's difficult. And also maybe the people that live and work up here don't want a million tourists running around, scaring the wildlife, just disturbing the life, you know. Anyway, the other thing I want to say about this ridge is that it's the main ridge that I go on to the southeast feels ancient, right? Feels old growthy, has that energy to it. And this one, no. These are younger trees. You know, at one point, almost all of northern Thailand was just like basically deforested, right? And the king, in part with the government, I believe, they started look at, there's a little hut. They started they made a forestry ban, 1889 I think it was. How's that for forward thinking, eh? Of course, illegal tree cutting happens, right? That's the way that goes. But I get the feeling that this ridge had a lot of the trees cut, whereas the other ridge feels older. But I don't know, because I've only been here for 5 years. But there's still some pretty big trees here. You know, they're still here. It's just that there's a lot more scrubby kind of stuff, you know. Yeah, but hard to say. Like things grow really fast here, right? So a tree that I might think is 800 years old in Canada might be 50 years old here. You know. Anyway, so I gotta. Yeah, not sure which way to go. Gotta check the map. Right. So basically now I'm heading down that place where the trail divided. Before I would often go kind of in between them and straight up. There's kind of a faint trail that goes up a bit higher than I can come down again, but I decided to take this trail down instead. It comes down a little bit lower down in the village, and I think I need to get an ice cream or something. Anyway, so then going downhill, well, you just follow gravity, I guess, and here there's trails that will branch off and stuff, right? So you have to kind of think, what makes most sense? And quite often it's the trail that is the clearest. Makes the most sense, but it's fun to explore the other ones too. Sometimes you'll end up on a trail and it'll suddenly veer off in a direction you don't think is quite right, and then it's good to backtrack and just double check all that, you know. Anyway, checking in a bit. Okay, I'm back. Well, okay, so here's what's going on now. Well, I was heading down that trail. Hadn't been down that one even longer than the regular ones I come up here with. And, it was just, it's a steep drop, I know, but it's just covered in leaves and hadn't been walked on. So I decided, what is that, discretion being the better part of valor. I decided to not walk down there. I thought about going up that center part that I mentioned, but I just decided, no, I just want to walk on the ridge today. So I'm basically backtracking from where I just came from. Sorry, bug just flew in my mouth. Ugh, yum yum. Anyway, yeah, so I'm just walking back along the ridge back home. So there'll be no road work. And I was sort of dropping down and I could hear the cars starting. I could start hearing the cars down in the village, and it's quite busy now because the sort of lockdown is more lifted and cafes and stuff are open. So, no, I just want to stay up in the woods today, right? With the insects and the birds. And anyway, but that's another point, I guess, that I could make in terms of navigation, since the navigation video, sort of, is instincts, right? Follow what feels right. Not so easy to do, right? Because things like fear and other emotions can interfere with what you think might be your instincts, right? So, I don't know, it's a feeling you get in your gut. You know that saying? I had it in my gut I should go back on the trail. So when that happens, I pretty much, oh, there's that Bernie thing. I pretty much always follow it, you know. Yeah. When I was on my ride, actually my horse ride, another thing that can affect your instinct, I feel like my hair's a little disheveled today, like every day. Another thing that can affect your choosing your choices, we'll say, hugely is being tired and even worse, exhausted, right? When you're really tired, the decisions you make. Oh, man. Anyway, I know that from experience. One thing, when I was on my long ride, you know, if you don't know this, the last 3 years, pretty much, in Canada, I was engaged on a long-distance ride through Saskatchewan and Alberta, and I prepared for it for like a good 3 years before as well. So it really felt like a 7-year project, if you can call it that. But one nice thing about having the horse is, and sometimes everyone thinks, oh, it must be so nice to just hop on the horse and just ride wherever. It's like, no, it's an intense thing to do. A solo long ride like that. It's incredible, but you know. But one thing that was amazing is sometimes I'd be so tired and the horses would kind of take over, right? You kind of know, or I feel like, oh, look at all the bottles. People have been working up here and drinking. It's quite a while ago. Anyway, but what was I going to say? Yeah, the horses are like pure. I feel like they don't have the same level of interference with their gut instincts, you know. So it's quite often they would actually make a choice. They would make the choice, and I would follow them. Mostly I was in charge, right? You gotta be that way. But there were moments where I knew, and even more important, they knew that someone else had to lead for that moment, right? And that's what they did. Depending on the horse. Usually be Dakota, my other horse, that would do that. Yeah. Anyway. You know, this burnt out area that I've been following, up on the top of the ridge, it's so narrow. It appears to be so narrow. I betcha it might be a kind of preventative fire that was set, you know? Just to burn off some of the built up leaves and twigs to prevent a big fire from coming over. Could easily be. I mean, when I go up with people in my village to the southeast ridge, we sweep the wide trail there. Yeah. We sweep it. So that might be what's going on. Hard to say, but maybe. Anyway, checking back. Oh, okay. Yeah, you know, I'm gonna change the plans. So down this part of the trail here, you can see this is how the trail used to look. It's not too hard to follow, but obviously it's not sort of super wide and stuff, you know. But I'm going to take this trail here, if you can see that. It goes right over that log. And, yeah, okay, so I'm going to dip down this other trail, actually, change the plans. This will take me down to the Muban near where the ice cream is. So I'm going to slip down there and see how this trail is. But listen, things are coming along on another one of my meandering walks and talks, and the first one of trying to talk about navigation and stuff. I have to find another word for that, you know. The gist of what I'm trying to say is that you kind of get to know a place in your bones, you know. And when that happens, it's kind of like things open up, right? You don't worry so much about where you are and where you're going. You have a real physical sense of place. You have a sense of the trees and the geography and how the land rolls and all that, right? And of course, when you go to a place you're not familiar with, that becomes different. But there's also things that you can carry over, I think, to wherever you go. Like, there's plenty of stuff that I learned all those years in Canada, in Northern Ontario, and then in the Rockies, were the two main places I spent time in the bush. And I certainly brought a lot of stuff from there here. One thing I don't really have to worry about is getting caught and freezing to death in the middle of the night. So, but there's other things, right? Other things. So anyway, I'm going to try to go down here, see how it is. Maybe the trail gets crazy again and I'll have to backtrack. But anyway, thanks again for checking in. If you want to subscribe, please subscribe. And there's a bell thing if you want to get notified. Okay? À la prochaine, and thanks a lot for coming along. Ciao. Holy, off that trail. I have the trail marked actually, and I've walked down, and wow, no one's been on it for ages, like years it felt like. But I was just following the very slightest of indication and thought, oh, I gotta be off it. But I actually am on it, and you can see they've put up some water tanks up here, and yeah, can't believe it. Jeez, there you go.